All right. Well, we are live now. Good morning. I hope everybody's doing well. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We are going to have another story time. We're going to talk about some fun facts, but today's going to be about the West Point Mint. So I hope everybody's good. Let me pause this real quick. I'm not sure why that came on. Scotty Aquati, what's going on? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for being in the streams today. What's going on, Luther? How are you doing? I'm watching today on my new 40-inch smart TV. Woohoo! Awesome. Good. You're going to like the fire. You know, sit there and stare into the fire for a little while. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you will shortly. All right. Well, Eric, good morning. Hope you're doing well. He's still having issues where the sound's not coming through his device, so we're trying to figure out what's going on with that. I may end up shifting and doing something different in the future, getting away from Restream. Not sure if I'm going to go back to StreamYard or not, simply because of the cost. But we will see. There's nothing that I can't really do in OBS that I can't do in one of these other apps, so we will see. Yeah, no worries, bud. I know that's a pain in the butt, so we will get that taken care of. Well, we've got a number of people in chat. I'm only streaming horizontal today. I'm not going to stream vertical, but I'm going to go ahead and go in. If you guys would do me a favor, I'll be upgrading computers after the first of the year. Outstanding. Always fun. Kind of a headache too. Trying to get all the settings and everything right, but definitely a good thing. All right, well, let's dig into this morning. Today, again, we're going to be talking about West Point, and just like last year or last week, I've prepared another story for you. So we'll start with the story time, and then I'll break into some fun facts. And then tomorrow, you see a few coins on my table. We're going to talk a little bit about some of these coins. All the coins on my table are authentic. However, there are lots of things out there, websites and stuff like that, that sell coins that potentially have the West Point Mint mark, but actually don't. So we'll be talking about that tomorrow. So if you want to look and see kind of how you can tell whether something is made at West Point, some of the misunderstandings that general public have regarding the West Point Mint. All that stuff will be discussed between today and tomorrow. So it's pretty much everything you wanted to know about West Point today. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to dig in, and I have done something. So today I wanted to do something a little bit differently. Instead of you listening to me talk about this story and showing you the coins, I decided that I'm going to give you a fireplace. So we're going to do the Fireside story today, and you guys can sit there looking at it on your screens, and I will tell the story. So I'm going to go ahead and begin. Remember, while I'm telling the story, I will not be watching chat. So imagine this: an old man standing inside a warm library, the wind howling off the Hudson River. It's a mournful, ancient sound. It seems to carry the echoes of 200 winters. Inside the family library, the fire is the only defense against the biting chill of a very cold New York December. Outside the window, the world is a study in a monochromatic gray. The gray cliffs of the granite, the gray ice of the choked river, and the crisp, storied gray of his grandson Jillian's West Point uniform. See, Elias sat there in his high-backed leather chair, his hands resting on his knees. He looked at his grandson who stood by the hearth. Julian was young, his face still holding the smooth lines of youth. But the posture was locked in as that rigid area bird stance of West Point. He was a cadet, his uniform pressed so sharply it looked as it could cut the cold December air. "Sit down, Julian," grandfather said. The river ain't going anywhere. It's been frozen since before I was born, and it'll be frozen long after you become a general. It's Christmas, son. Time for family. So his focus changed, shifted on his grandfather. As his grandfather says, it's time for the stories that the granite keeps. So Julian sat next to his grandfather, the leather chair creaking in the silence. Elias leaned back, his eyes reflecting the embers. You look just like your dad, dear, when he stood 39 years ago. But a man is more than the uniform he wears. He has a history. He carries history. And our family breathed the air of these highlands for generations. We've seen how this rock, this West Point, became the beating heart of a nation's wealth. Thinking back to the winter of 1778, the stories causing his voice to drop. The Hudson was the key to the continent. If the British Navy sailed north, they would have sliced the American colonies in two. And George Washington knew this. He knew this so well, he began to study the map. He noticed this twisting, shifting S point in the river, and he ordered what we know to be the Great Chain to be forged. It was a winter, well, not unlike this one. Cruel, unforgiving, hungry. Elias describes the scene, the blacksmiths standing at the Sterling Ironworks, sweating in the freezing air, hammering out links of iron that weighed over 100 pounds apiece. It was the dead of winter. They dragged those chains across the ice by ox sled. Oh man, it was a building that locked a door and hadn't even been hung yet. Oh, when the ice thawed, that chain, 500 tons of iron, held up by massive logs, sank into the water. It was the physical manifestation of the young American will. It told the British, you shall not pass. It was the first time that West Point was used as a vault, but it wasn't guarding gold or silver back then. It was guarding the very ideal of America. The iron that is in your blood is the strength that allows us to survive these winters. Staring into the fire for a few moments, he said, I want you to think about 1937. All of these dates will eventually make sense, Elias continued. The Great Depression had hollowed out the soul of our country. The government needed a place to hide the massive wealth, millions upon millions upon millions of ounces of silver, and they chose this rock. They built a depository here, the windowless fortress that reinforced concrete. And your great-great-grandfather there guarding it during those, what they called ghost convoys. Your grandfather would tell me about how they arrived at midnight through the middle of a blizzard. The snow muffling the sounds of the engines, and no lights were allowed. See, they were moving the wealth of the nation into a tomb. For years, that tomb sat in silence. Cadets every day and every night walked past it, never knowing what was behind the walls. It was a king's ransom. And it was a secret kept by the granite and the snow. It was a place of storage, but it was a place of waiting. It was the insurance policy, that silent nation's gift. But it's strange. See, Philadelphia, the biggest mint that there was, couldn't keep up for demands. And at this time, just a depository, machinery started to form. Machinery started to come in and the sound of presses tucked away behind the high fences of the academy grounds started. If you're confused, the year was 1974. And they struck over $1 billion right here at West Point. A year later, they struck bicentennial quarters and half dollars to celebrate the 200th birthday of our nation. But here's the mystery. When did you see a W mint mark cent? You know what? Back in those days, they didn't put one on there. He held up a penny, 1974, and he handed it to his grandson. He says, look, right there, no mint mark. To any collector, it looks like it came from Philadelphia. It was an anonymous coin minted by the ghosts of West Point, released into the pockets of Americans without knowing its true origin. Why am I telling you this? Because it was a silent service. And it holds true to what you do today. See, they produce the currency of the people without, well, asking for credit, just like Soldier. Jillian, you do the work, you hold the line, but you don't always get your name on the metal. Look at your chest. Where's your name? Only on the tag. See, you serve the nation as a whole, even when you remain invisible. And the Mint did this in 74 and 75. But they weren't a mint then. 1986, years later, his voice warming with a nostalgic glow, he said, your father was born. The winter was extremely brutal that year, and the whiteout lasted 3 days. But something was happening deep inside the depository. Something historic was happening. The secrecy was finally lifting. They weren't just making anonymous pennies and half dollars. They were striking gold, American gold, the American gold eagle. He described the transition from the storage locker to becoming a forge. It was a rebirth, he said. The same ground that held the iron chain, the same ground that hid the silver in the dark, was now producing the most beautiful gold coin in the world. It was as if the mountain finally decided to show us its face. And by the time your father was taking his first steps, West Point was officially becoming a U.S. Mint. A silent fortress had become the creator of light and value. Elias reached for a small mahogany box sitting on the table. He didn't hand it over immediately, but he opened it, sitting in his palm, feeling the weight. Jillian, this is for you. This coin was minted in 1986, the year that your father entered this world. It was born of the same frost and the same granite where you've spent the last 4 years. It was the first of its kind. He opened the box and showed his grandson the 1986 gold eagle that sat inside. Brilliant, sun-like disc reflecting on the deep orange of the hearth. Look at Lady Liberty. Wow. There she is, walking forward. You can just see it as she walks across the stage, much like you later today as you graduate. The coin carries the weight of many things. It carries the weight of the iron chain. It carries the mystery of the anonymous penny, and it carries the purity of the gold that survived the transition from a silent vault to a proud mint. And as he handed the coin to Jillian, he felt the cool, heavy metal in his hands. Jillian, he said, you're graduating into a world that is cold. Remember this. You were made of the same stuff as this coin. You have been forged in the highlands. You have been tested by winter, and like the gold, unyielding, valuable, true. When you look at this, remember your father, your grandfather, and his grandfather before him. Your country was built on the rock at West Point. Elias stood up and walked towards the window and looked at the snow-covered academy in the distance. Merry Christmas, Julian. Make us proud. West Point is a storied place. It is the oldest operated mint by the U.S. Army, the oldest post. Again, in 1777 to 1778, when Washington looked at how he was going to protect the United States, the young fledgling nation, he realized that there was an area in the river that, as he looked at it, really quickly discovered that if he didn't do something, if he didn't try to prevent this, then British troops could potentially cut the colonies in half. They could just go straight up the Hudson River. And if you've never seen the gold or the river chain, I've got some photos that I'm going to be showing you here in just a moment. And it's amazing to see exactly how things happen and what happened. What's going on, Azure? How you doing? So I'm going to share with you this little presentation. Again, it's a little story, but it's just some slides, gives you something to look at other than the silver and the gold coins sitting on the screen right now. So let me share this real fast, and we'll kind of walk through what's happening. All right. Actually, I should change this. Let me stop doing this. Let me do this differently, because I want you guys to have a full screen. All right, let's set this up a little bit differently. I think this will be a little bit better for you. All right, there we go. Now you should see the whole screen. We'll make this big, and now we just can kind of walk through. So I kind of went over already talking about the history of West Point. And again, looking at the stories of West Point and trying to understand the history of this, we realize very quickly, and I just realized that my screen for this is shifted, so I've got to pull something else up. The thing that's important here is to look at why is West Point so famous? Why is it so popular? And a lot of people don't know that West Point was actually, or is actually, considered the Fort Knox of silver. And in the story that I just wrote and read for you, there was a time where, in secret, this fort that was established 1777 and a little bit before, that actually kept the British from splitting our early nation in two, carried a huge secret. But there are actually a number of other secrets that have happened through West Point. We're going to talk about some of those, and I'm going to go through some of those items. But when we talk about the big chain, this is kind of what happened with that big chain. Now, if you haven't ever seen this before, this is the site where the mint stands. It's been there since 1778. And again, as I stated before, George Washington was sitting on the Hudson and thought that this is extremely important. If he doesn't protect this piece of ground, the British are going to come in, split us in two, and then we've lost before we've even begun. And he really recognized the importance of this. And so they worked with a number of people to try to find some information. And in 1776, the British had actually seized New York. Now, if you know, again, this is located in New York, if you've never seen West Point or know where West Point's located. But in order to prevent the ships from going any further up the Hudson, they put this chain across. And you can see that there were two different, there was a boom and then there was the chain set. And as the ships would come, these chains were floating on rafts and they were sitting just below the surface of the water. So you might be able to see them depending upon the water flow. But for the most part, this chain was designed to prevent a ship coming down. Unfortunately, there was something that happened that I don't think a lot of people are truly aware of, and we'll get to a little bit about this before. But West Point is the scene of a massive, massive betrayal. And again, like I said, we'll talk a little bit about that before. Thomas Machen was the one who had been a canal builder and was asked to do this. He's the one that actually created the design. So fabulous piece, amazing history. And again, these are just things that a lot of this stuff I did not know about prior to starting to study this. And so I learned a lot of information about this as well. When we go to the next one, this is West Point. If you've never actually seen West Point, the facility itself is phenomenal, gorgeous. And most people know West Point from the Army. The academy is located there, but the facility actually was established in 1937. Now, back then, as in the story that I read earlier, the primary purpose was to store the nation's reserves of silver bullion. And this comes on the heels of something else that many of you are aware of. And so during the 30s, you remember we see peace dollars, 34, 35, and a lot of people wondered why that happened. Well, that happened because of an act called the Pittman Act. And the government had to have a place to store a lot of the silver. Remember that they had attracted a lot of silver. They were melting down coins. They were sending it abroad to help a war-torn country. Ironically, the silver that we would help restore England to was the same country in which that chain was utilized to prevent from taking over our country. So West Point has been on both sides of this. They've been on both sides of the war machine, not only to prevent people from coming up the river and taking over this site, but also in the hopes of restoring other nations after a war-torn country had gone through what was a terrible World War I. Now, a fun fact about this is, again, we talked about the Fort Knox of silver because of the amount of silver, but at one point in West Point, over 20% of the government silver reserves were located here. And when you talk about, 20%, that's a massive, massive amount of silver to be had here. And, in this story, there's a little bit of liberty about the lights and not being able to go on. But the Ghost Convoy was a real thing, and it's something that in talking with some people who graduated from West Point, there's a lot of stories about the Ghost Convoy. So interesting tidbit of information. Also, something that many of you may not have been tracking, we've talked a lot about this in the past, is the 1974. The pennies were struck without the mint mark, obviously, well, you can't tell. What would be really interesting would be to see if they did a really good data collection of the die pairings. If not, it would be interesting to see how that worked. But there's no way, as it stands right now, to distinguish those ones that were made in West Point versus the ones that were made in Philadelphia. But why do I tell you this? Well, there's going to be somebody who sees this video and says that there's a 1974 with a no W mint mark, and somebody's going to try and capitalize on this. But again, you can't tell which ones are which. You would need to do much like Van Allen and Malice did with the VAMs. You'd have to catalog every dye pairing used, and you would have to be able to point to what the elements were on that coin in order to pull it back. But again, I don't think that work was done. If they have this stuff available, it would definitely be fun. It'd be definitely fun to look into. Luther, now that the cents are over, I predict the Lincoln Cent series will become like VAMworld. Sites like Coppercoin, Wexler, Variety Vista have a really good library, but there's a lot of research that Chuck and Eric have done. There's, again, you're talking about a community of people who have studied these things for a long time. I am not aware of any dye markers or anything that have been tracked to actually identify whether something was struck at West Point or not. I don't know that West Point kept that that deep or that well of documented record for these. They may have, they may not have, but I don't know of any information that would lead us to be able to identify whether or not the West Point Mint could actually be identified. What's going on, Chuck? How you doing, bud? Good to see you. Another thing is, and again, when you talk about the West Point Mint, the first gold coins weren't minted until 1986. And of course, this was the famed American Gold Eagle. But there were other coins, again, done before this. Now, I don't know if a lot of you are tracking this, but we owe the American Gold Eagle to one of my favorite presidents, which is actually Ronald Reagan. On December 17th, which is my daughter's birthday, ironically, the legislation by President Reagan was actually signed into law. And 1986, the American Gold Eagle would have come into play. Now, ironically, the bullion versions of the Gold Eagle do not have the mint mark. So if you're ever looking at something, again, you've seen my items on the table earlier. If you have a mint mark, it's considered a coin. If not, it'd be a bullion. So for those of you who don't know how to do that, just check that. Jack Riley, just small date versus large date, 1974, which may be the underlying answer to that question. It could be. But again, Jack, it's not documented. We would need documented evidence. If anybody was ever to do that work, I think it would be amazing to go back and look at the dye markers and be able to say that you'd be able to see that. But again, just really interesting item. I got to ask a question in chat. Do you guys happen to know the very first mint mark that carried, or the very first coin that carried the West Point mint mark? And they made small and large dates at all the mints. Fact. Yeah. So you'd have to really dig into that. But put your information, if you know the answer to this, put it in chat below. What is the first coin that actually bore a West Point mint mark? This is an interesting piece. Well, that answers my question. Well, but the thing is it's an interesting theory. And a lot of theories have to be stooped in research. And so unfortunately, I don't think that research has been done. I don't know if the capability to do that is even available. That would require a little bit smarter minds, but it definitely is something that would be interested in looking for. Check Stacker says the first gold coin with a West Point mint mark was an ASE. No, that is incorrect. Let's give a couple more minutes to folks. If you guys want to search the answer up, you can do so. ADK Stacker just subscribed. Thank you so much, ADK, for subscribing. Greatly appreciate the support of the channel. If you're enjoying this, please do me a favor and share this out. What's up, Chappie? Good to see you this morning. Hope you're doing well. Well, I'm not seeing any answers in chat, so I am going to go ahead and just show you the Rosie dime. No, it actually was this coin right here. The 1984 Los Angeles Olympics. This is the first coin. Very close, Kevin. How you doing, bud? Good to see you. The 1984 Olympic. This is the first coin to bear the West Point mint mark. Now, I want you to take a moment and look at this screen. I want you to notice the W. Why am I having you look at that? Well, we're going to get to that in a few minutes. There's something very specific here that you need to pay attention to. And again, it primarily when you're looking at the American gold and the American silver eagles. Be familiar with this mint mark. There is something that's happening. Jack Riley may not be tracking this, but Jack Young and I were looking at some things the other day. He pulled up something, and it's something that we had been discussing in another chat group. And that was that when we're dealing with counterfeits, a lot of people misunderstand the mark that's on the American Silver Eagle. We'll get to that in just a minute, but it's important you understand the difference between the mint mark and the other thing I'm going to show you. So stay tuned. We'll talk about that before. But again, the Los Angeles Olympics, again, it was a massive event. It was the first time that a UFO flew over the Olympics. If you guys don't remember that, they had a UFO fly over. It was quite the show. But the 1984 Olympics were a storied Olympics. Almost as famous as the 1980 Olympics, the Dream Team, the original one where the U.S. hockey team beat the Soviets. 1984 was a good year for the Olympics in the United States and really showed us as being on a stage to compete with the world. So there were a lot of really cool things that happened with this. But again, this was 4 years prior to something else happening. So I want you to think about this. When you look at, we had 1986, 1984, we had a number of coins, and this wasn't even a mint yet. See, the United States Mint finally recognized or finally appointed West Point as an official mint in 1988. It was pretty contentious, actually, because the depository there at West Point was kind of meant to be quiet. There were special things. People by this point knew that the West Point Mint was the silver storage for America. There was, again, there's other places where this happens. There's silver at Fort Knox. There's silver at the bullion depositories across the United States. You have the Federal Reserve banks and things of that nature that store a lot of silver in coin state, bullion state. And again, it was 1988 where they were first recognized to become a mint. And so this 1988 Olympic, this is a really cool coin, by the way. Actually, it's one of my favorite Olympic obverses. But this is the first one that was done under that official mint title. What's going on, AZ? How you doing? Good to see you. Azure Blue, good to see you. Thank you so much. And again, brother, yesterday opened up that Christmas gift and loved the ship. I got that ship sitting here. I'll show that here in just a minute when I'm done presenting some of the information on West Point. But I appreciate you, brother. I really do. Security, we got that covered. I don't know if you guys know this. Security. Here's one thing that the West Point Mint Police, they have managed this. The story revolves around the dedication of the United States Army in maintaining and manning West Point. Again, as stated before, the titles, the Academy's duty, honor, and country still ring true today. You'll see that West Point sigil there. You see duty, honor on the left-hand side, the West Point 1778 there, and then United States Military Academy. That's what USMA stands for. And again, it's one of the most storied academies. There's obviously the Marines and the Navy have their own, but West Point really is a storied history. The military history of this point, again, we talked about the chain, we talked about some of the other things that happened, and it's just a fabulous story regarding how this fort, which was Fort Benedict, we'll talk a little bit about that here in just a moment, became Fort Clinton, and again, how these two items came together to save our nation. The Usama, again, we talked about Benedict Arnold. So if you guys have never heard the story of Benedict Arnold and his betrayer, or his betrayal, it actually happened at West Point. This is the genesis. This is the location. This is the point of where Benedict Arnold would turncoat and kind of try and I'm getting lost in my words. They would try and utilize a position of power to overthrow this particular item. The amount of information that was given to the British was significant. Unfortunately, they didn't necessarily follow the guidelines of Benedict Arnold, and because of that, really lost the opportunity to take over the colonies. But why do I say that? Well, as soon as it became clear that Benedict Arnold was going to be commanding West Point, he started gathering intel. The intel about the chain, the fact that a fully loaded ship would be able to clear that channel. They would have to have the forces behind it. But if you had a heavy enough ship, he explained where the weakness was and just really, kind of tried to turn us in. Unfortunately, the British didn't take all of these things to heart. And again, when you look at his betrayal, does anybody know? Like, I found this really fascinating to try to find up some of the information, but does anybody know how many British pounds he turned coat for? If you don't, we'll give it just a few moments. I'll continue on. But if you don't know, it's an interesting story of how much he turned. Check Stacker just gifted 5 memberships. Teacher will be very happy with that. Thanks, Check. David G, Being Becky Now, Silver Slinky, and Discovery DX all got gifted memberships thanks to Check Stacker. Check, thank you so much, brother. Appreciate the support and the connection and the friendship. I really do appreciate you. Wife is ready to go. Okay, Eric, have a good one. Enjoy your shopping with your wife. All men know how much of a joy that is to spend that type of afternoon with your wife. So best of luck to you. Hope you're well. For those of you who don't know, again, the total dollar amount, 20,000 pounds. 20,000 pounds. That was Benedict Arnold price. And so August 3rd, 1780, Arnold was given the command at West Point. And after he established himself, he started to, yep, there you go, Luther. Good job. But he agreed to 10. That's okay. There you go. He started to undermine his position of authority. He started to undermine the security of West Point by weakening its defenses. And he met with a British major called John Andre, September 21st, 1780. And he actually just started making plans of how he was going to give up the position. And as he started to return, American forces understood kind of a little bit about what was going on, fired the ship that Andre planned on taking back to fit to secure that British position, and he was forced to retreat overland. Now, Benedict Arnold actually provided him with a bunch of documents to pass through the American lines, but despite all of that, he was still captured. The plot was revealed, and Benedict Arnold went back to Britain, and the American forces, with a short drop on a sudden stop, relieved the life force of said Andre. And again, when you look at the history of these two forts, Fort Arnold actually was changed later on to Fort Clinton, and both Fort Clinton and Fort Putnam are part of the major fortification positions. If you want to know more about this, there is a really cool piece. Oops, that was that. There's a really cool piece that you can go look at, and it's called Battlefield. Now, the Battlefield, I'm hoping this actually fits in. I don't think it's going to happen. When you go over here to battlefield.org learn, this is the website. You're going to have to go search up the Academy and Benedict Arnold. Yeah, about 5 million today, Chuck. It was a hefty sum of money. But again, when you're looking at the amount of money for betraying your country, it's a pretty small amount. And I mean, granted, back then, 20,000 pounds is a ton of money. But 5 million today is not what it used to be. It's not what it was 10, 15 years ago. 25 years ago, when you heard of somebody being a millionaire, it was, oh my God, like holy smokes. Now everybody's a millionaire, right? There's any business owner, anybody who manages, maintains that kind of stuff, they have that money. It's normal now. It's kind of one of those things that we just take for granted. But it's not a significant amount of money when you talk to people about betraying a country. That's an unfortunate fact. Again, we did talk about this, and you guys know many people love this particular quarter. And again, West Point and the Drummer Boy, a lot of people didn't know that 1.5 million bicentennial quarters were actually minted at West Point. And the reason for that is they were looking to check the new plating processes that they had. So they were actually kind of like a design facility. Well, Jack, yeah, I understand. Not everybody's a millionaire. But the point is that, the number of millionaires today is just, it's insane compared to what it was before. And again, you're talking about somebody who's turning over their country, right? Benedict Arnold would later provide additional information to us. So he was kind of like a double player in the game of things. But again, it was unfortunate. But West Point minted 1.5 million of these quarters. And again, they were testing a new plating process. This was around the time where they were looking at, and they're always looking at this, by the way, to try and identify metals and different things that they can use. And so while they were going through this process and checking things out, they were minting coins, just like the 74 penny that we talked about a little while ago. Neither one of these coins, including the half, has the W mint mark. And so when we get to the W mint mark, we're going to talk about a couple different things, but I want to, and I'm going to leave this here. This is going to be the kind of like my final slide. I'll show you a little bit, but West Point was one of these places that successfully transitioned from a military fortress, still is, to the nation's key silver vault. It, in '88, became the premium branch mint. This is where all of the bullion is done. Now, granted, San Francisco does do this, but this is primarily the role for West Point and the really high collectibles. You can see here that reverse proof W in the upper left-hand corner. You got the platinum down in the bottom left. Of course, you have the W mint mark there on the gold eagle, and then the $10 coin that you see down at the very bottom. Why am I showing you these? Well, I want you to pay attention again to the mint mark, because again, one of the problems, and I'm going to stop showing this right now. We will cancel that, and I will present something else to you really quickly. one of the situations, let's stop sharing this and let's pull this up. You're going to see on the coin on the left, in God we trust, and underneath that you're going to see that W. What people need to be careful with, and this is something that is, most of you know this, okay? What's going to be important here is that as we look tomorrow at some of the coins, I want you to be really careful and really observe the W mint mark, because a lot of people misunderstand the W mint mark. What's up, Silverman? How you doing? Good to see you. What's up, Robert the Bruce? The W mint mark is actually Adolf Weinmann's mark. There is a W mint mark, but you need to know the differences between the two. Now, why am I saying this? Well, tomorrow we're going to show you how people that don't know that there's actually a W mint mark, or people who don't actually know that Adolf Weinmann's initials are on this, utilize that WA and change that to make it a prominent W. We've seen this, and Jack Young is going to show some examples. He pulled an example up. They make that, the mark on that is wrong, by the way, in some of these counterfeits that are up there. But a lot of people look at that and go, well, every bullion coin should have, you know, a W mint mark. That is not the way this works. We'll be talking about why the mint mark and these makers marks are different. Many of you already know this. But if you haven't been tracking that, this is something that we found on a lot of counterfeit coins, which is the mint mark when it shouldn't be there, the designer's initials when they shouldn't be there. Well, so that's true, Luther. They do have the WA. That looks like a W mint mark, but it's actually not a W mint mark. But the people who are not tracking this, the people who are, you know, creating these counterfeit coins, have not really paid that close attention, or they just don't care. And the people who are buying these don't have the information to know that that WA of Adolf Weinmann isn't the West Point mint mark. And we're going to break that down. We're going to talk about that because this is problematic, especially when you're looking at some of these coins. And I have one here, and I didn't put it up on purpose. I'm going to pull it up now. There are certain W mint marks that carry more weight than others. And one of them, and you guys have seen this before, this is something that it's a highly collectible piece. Other headphones. It's a highly collectible piece, but when you get it in the right grade, it's extremely valuable. And that's this piece right here. Many of you know the 75th privy. It does have the W mint mark. It does have that 75 privy on there. Put that there. And again, you see the W mint mark on this. Now, what you're not seeing, okay, I'm going to flip this back over. What do you not see on this particular coin? Anybody? I'm going to give you guys just a minute. I want you to look at this and I want you to pay attention. What are you not seeing on this? This is something that's extremely important when you're looking at coins and understanding what the element of a coin is, what it has on there. If I recall correctly, a Silver Eagle has the W's too. Yes, it does. And again, if you're looking at the one on the left-hand side, you'll see that Adolf Weinmann, that is not the W mint mark. The W mint mark is on the reverse of this. No AW. Good job, Jack. Yeah, exactly right. Hey, what's up, Ronald Pierce? Good morning. How are you? And so the Adolf Weinmann mark is not there. These are design elements. This is not something that's missing. It's not like, oh, they just forgot to add it. There are design elements that become security features. And it might have the Adolf Weinman, it might. It might have the W mint mark, it might not. There are important things to look at. If it has the W on there, obviously it's going to have the W mint mark, but it's not going to be on the front of the coin. It's going to be on the reverse. What's up, Pedro? Good to see you, brother. Hope you're doing well. And again, as we look at these, and I'm going to have to shift the mic a little bit, shifting positions. When we look at some of these, again, we hold these up here. You'll see that W mint mark there, right? There in the bottom right corner. And then again, on the front, you have that. Oh, let me shift this. And again, when we look at the front of this, where's the Adolf Weinman? So not every one of these has it. So you need to know the years that do, the years that don't. This is why when you're looking at authenticating any kind of Bullion, go to the US Mint. Go to the US Mint website, pull up the information for that year, look at the design elements on there, and make sure it's correct. Because a lot of the fake Bullion that is out there doesn't have all the elements, or it has too many elements. Maybe there's berries in the little stuff that she's carrying on the left side of her, where she's got her hand pointing one direction. She's got the laurels and stuff. Some of them have berries, some of them don't, depending upon the years. Sometimes there's a certain design element in the fabric that's flowing across her dress and down into the things. Look at the sandals. There's certain design elements on the reverse, right? You need to know what the design elements are, and the way that you're going to do that is by going to the source, looking at what's supposed to be there, identifying those items, and going through. There's a lot of counterfeit out there. There's a lot of fake bullion out there. There's a lot of fake silver and gold coins out there that are meant to deceive. Now, I'm not going to get into the gold. I'm not a gold expert when it comes to being able to identify all the markings and stuff like that. There are people out there that are really good about doing that. I'm trying to find somebody to come up and talk a little bit more, not so much stacking, but actually look at the metallurgical components of this and what happens and how they test it. And, you know, a Tiger Stacker, a buddy of mine, when we talk about different things, did a breakdown of the difference between an XRF machine and one of your Omega, or your oh, I just lost my mind. What's it called? Sigma Analytics. The what the purpose of those are. And a lot of people think that the XRF, you just scan the metal and you're good. But if you have something thick, if you have something that's solid, you need the XRF machine will not cut it for you. So there are reasons. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it, folks. I just went completely mind numb for a moment. There are things to take into account when you're looking at West Point, because again, West Point, you got some coins, you got some commemorative stuff, and you've got other things. Old school specific gravity. Okay, so here's an interesting thing about specific gravity. If your math is very slightly wrong, do you know that the specific gravity of gold will be very, 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 very close to the same metal that's used to counterfeit gold? They're right next to each other on the periodic table. And so if you don't know specifically about what you're looking for, the specific gravity can jack with you a little bit. Because again, when you're looking at tungsten, when you're looking at those things that are being replaced, they're putting in place of the gold, they scan correctly. The specific gravity, depending upon what's going on, can be potentially problematic. Now, a lot of you are like, oh my God, I don't want a science lesson. Not a problem. But it's important that you understand what is happening and what you need to do to be able to test the authenticity. Metals are a little bit different in that you have to validate the metal, but Always, 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 always validate the coin. Always. We talk about the slab. We talk about this every week. The slabs are nice, but the slabs only have guarantees if they're authentic. And you guys know there's tons of fake slabs that are out there. So make sure you understand the details. And if you're going to be making a big purchase, that coin on the right, the Proof 70 Silver Eagle V75, how much does that cost, folks? You guys are in chat. You guys know that particular one. So Luther, that's actually absolutely a fact. But a lot of people need to realize when you're talking about reactivity to a magnet, understanding the difference between ferromagnetic and diamagnetic. So ferromagnetic, boom, sticks to a magnet, no problem, done. It's there. But if you're talking about diamagnetic, what happens is that even though it isn't attractive, it actually repels the silver or repels the gold. And so when you push this down one of those little slides, yeah, thanks for asking to the thumbs up, folks. I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody being in here this morning too. Again, if you enjoy this kind of stuff, please share it out, especially the story Saturday morning. I work really hard to do those, and I hope you guys enjoy those. I enjoy it. That's a labor of love for me. But I enjoy this story time at the beginning on Saturdays. If you take, yeah, exactly, Luther. But what happens is when you slide it down a slide, there's a couple things. Is it a good test? Maybe. It's a good test if you have an authentic one that you can slide down and get a reference point. If you don't, how do you know it's sliding correctly? It's a question. If you have, like you said, drop a magnet down a copper pipe, it takes forever because those eddies, those things that are causing the metal to react against the copper, that diamagnetic property, it's actually wanting to not allow the magnet to pass through that. It's actually causing these eddy currents. And these eddy currents are something that help you with a slide. But unless you have an authentic one next to it, the slide's really not going to tell you anything unless the magnet sticks or it slides through really fast. But in talking with people like the Anti-Counterfeiting Educational Foundation, magnets, they're still an issue. You still need to have them. But a lot of the better counterfeits, they're not magnetic anymore. And so you've got to be careful understanding the tool. Don't use just one when you're talking about testing your metals. Now, again, we're talking about testing bullion, but again, this is West Point. A lot of the stuff that's coming from West Point is primarily bullion. And so, I mean, granted, it might be a coin, but it's silver, gold, platinum, palladium, whatever it might be. And so it's important that not only do you understand the makeup of the metal, understand what is it diamagnetic, is it ferromagnetic, what is it the reaction? We talk about, are you going to look at specific gravity? How does it sound? Again, all of those things come together in one entity. And if you're doing what you're supposed to do, genuinely doing what you're supposed to do, and utilizing multiple tests, if you don't know the coin, you can still get fooled. There are some counterfeits out there that are so good that, again, Jack Riley, Jack Young, some of these folks do all this work. There are counterfeits out there that are so good, they're fooling people. And so, yeah, I like the ping test as well. It's a great sound, but not everybody has good tone quality. They can't tell, let alone sing, but they can't necessarily differentiate the tones. So depending upon what you're good at, what you're bad at, different tests are going to be required. If you're going to do a sound test, a ping test, use an app, right? Even grading companies, yeah, Jack, that's exactly right. Grading companies, again, they make mistakes. But it's important to know the coin. And if you're going to be spending a bunch of money, again, I asked the question on the Proof 70 die cam, the Silver Eagle, that V75. this coin is between, $500 and $700, depending upon who you get it from. If you're going to be making a purchase of $500, you better know what the elements of that item is, right? You better be making sure that you're taking time to understand what the design elements are. If it's in a CAC slab, what should you see on the CAC slab? The bottom right, bottom left? Which one's on the front? Which one's on the back? If you look at some of the other elements there on the Silver Eagle, should it or should it not have Adolf Weinmann's initials? If you're looking at the mint mark, should it be on the front or should it be on the back of the coin? To answer all of these questions, go to the source and look it up. If you have a red book or you have something like that, use it. Now, I wouldn't use a red book for quality pricing, because again, by the time they do this, it becomes extremely out of date. You look at what's happened the last few months in silver. If you were to look at a red book from earlier in the year, it doesn't take into account the fact that silver was gone through the roof, or platinum went from 1500 to 1950. So again, you have to make sure that you're understanding the time frames. So don't use the red book as a pricing sheet. Use something like Gray Sheet, or go, if you're doing eBay, very carefully look at the sold listings. But again, multiple resources. What's the best thing that you can possibly do? Absolute best thing that you can do? Have a good network. Coin shops, bullion dealers, people that understand that your high core collectors of these particular elements. We have people that love collecting silver eagles, gold eagles, platinum. They're collecting full sets of things. Get a hold of them. Talk to them about what the specifics are, and make sure that you understand what that should look like. Vote for Pedro. Fortunately, my Sigma hasn't found any fake gold that I bought. Found multiple pieces of fake silver, just no gold. That's good. Again, when you talk about the price, I want to make a statement, and I don't care who wants to tell me I'm wrong. I don't believe I am. And this is a personal belief. I think that if everybody here looks hard enough in their collection, one of you will probably find something that's fake. Or 2 of you, or 10 of you, or 20 of you will find something that's fake. They've been around for a long time. And I found, thanks to Jack Riley, you turd, one fake coin that I was really, really in love with. I really enjoyed the coin. But after reading one of his articles, I'm like, well, son of a gun. Right? And it happens. It happens to the best of us. We have, does fake errors count? Well, there's a lot of that stuff too. But again, this goes to knowing the coin, knowing the items. This is why Sundays, and not every Sunday, but for the most part, we want to teach you some of the things that you need to look for in those particular, whether it be the mint mark, whether it be the design elements, whether it be a particular type of coin. Again, if we're talking about Morgans, then absolutely, Jack Riley should be somebody talking about those. If we're talking about old copper cents and things of that nature, we definitely need to be having Jack Young on the panel. If we're going to be talking about varieties and errors, Paula, Eric, Chuck from Copper Coins would be great to have on the panel. If we're going to be looking at things where we're breaking down the gold structure and talking about how to check a pre-33 gold to see if it's authentic, then we have a ton of stackers and people who really understand the searching for that. But what matters is finding people who really want to do the research and give you the best information, and not just people who heard it from somebody who heard it from somebody and now they're relaying second or third hand information. It's important you do your research. It's important to look at your collections. It's important to revisit it from time to time. And I know stackers that they put their stuff away, they never go back and look at it. Go back and look at it. Please take some time. Go run your test. Many of you do that as you get it, and that's great. But check your stacks, check your collections. Go through. When Jack Riley's talking about New Orleans micro O's, get all your micro O's, look up the years, check out what he's doing, pull up the resources that he's done, and check your coins out. It's important that we are good stewards because we are only temporary stewards of our collections. We are only temporary stewards of our stack. And we owe it to the person that we're going to be giving and relinquishing our stacks to the due diligence to make sure that stuff is correct. If you're going to be buying stuff, good Lord, you had better not look at a bunch of stuff online and just think it's okay. Folks, silver and gold, platinum, palladium, don't go on sale. You're not going to find a 50% off platinum, 50% off palladium. You might with jewelry, but that's because they marked it up 700%. And now they're just marking it up 350%. But as far as bullion and gold, you're not going to get a break on that. You might get lucky and find something at or slightly under spot. But if silver is 65 or 66 or 67, you're probably going to be paying close to that for those items. Reality, realism in this hobby is crucial. Just understand what's there. What's up, Amy? How are you? Thank you for being a channel member. For all the folks that are green or blue, please make sure you tell them thank you. There's a lot of folks that support this channel. Again, Chuck Stacker, 5 gifted memberships yesterday. Freaking awesome. Did 10 gifted memberships. You know, I don't ask you guys to super chat. I don't ask you guys to gift memberships. I want you to watch videos. I want you to share the information out. But really what I want you to do is I want you to become smarter in the hobby. That's it, right? I don't need anything else from you guys. Subscribe. Hit the subscription thing. It's free. You go watch a video. Go share something. That is the way to help out the channel. And it really is something that I can't do by myself. All I can do is the research. All I can do is provide you the best information I can. And when we find BS information that's out there, tell you about it. And so it's really important. For those of you who are new here, if you guys like story time, let me know. If you guys want to know about a specific coin, drop your questions in chat. If I don't know the answer, I'm not going to give you a BS answer. If I don't know the answer, I'm going to tell you I don't know. We're going to find the person who does. We're going to bring them on and we're going to get your question answered. Siren, what's up? Good to see you. Oh, Luther, 5 more gifted memberships. Ridiculous or Rich. Charles Latre. Coins and Ghouls. That's another name if you don't know live coin Q&A. Native Warrior and Patriot. I'm Christo Grimm, 510. Congratulations on getting the membership. Thank you so much, bud. I appreciate you dropping the 5 memberships. There's lots of people who support this channel. And I really do appreciate you. But it's about information. But if there is something that you want to know about, if there is something that you have questions on, ask. I can only do so much on the things that I like. But this is ultimately your channel. And so somebody said, do something on the mints. And I was like, that's a great idea. Let's do it. So if you guys like this structure, if you guys like the story time, you guys like learning about the elements, and then actually the following day on that Sunday digging into the coins, if you like this structure, put a 1 in chat. Let me know that you like this structure. We will continue it up. If you want something different and you want to do this in a short time frame, then we can do that. But you got to let me know what you want to do. This is your channel. Yes, it's mine. I put the information out there. I generate and build friendships and relationships. But this is ultimately your channel. You guys tell me what you want to see. And I will do the research and I will try to find out what I can. I enjoy that. Should I get my W coin, my W quarters graded? Vinny, great question. It depends. It depends on a couple of things. Number one, quality. Quality of the strike. No marks, flawless. Maybe, maybe. For the most part, no, because people like the W Mint Mark quarter and they sell raw. You don't necessarily need to do it. Now, there are people who like to grade their coins just because they like to grade their coins. And if that's what you want to do, you want to get a full set of graded W coins, and that's what you want to do it. By all means. Fire away. Go for it. But general rule of thumb, if you have to ask the question, should I get it graded? The answer is no. Right? If they're key dates, and yes, if you can find the W Mint Mark quarters just raw in normal circulated condition, they're $25, $30. If you have one that's in really, really nice condition, or you have rolls of them, you might consider looking and finding the best one and doing that, but it's up to you. Just know that you don't have to. It's not something that you should grade them. If you want to do it to protect it, then that's fine. If they came straight out of rolls, then yeah. But it's ultimately up to you. That's what matters, right? If you want to do it. As for me, probably not. Why? Well, I can take the money if I'm sending in 10 coins, figure $35 a coin, plus shipping, you're looking at $450 to grade all 10 coins. I saved myself another $125. I'm buying a tenth ounce of gold. Sorry, I'm going to be buying a 10th ounce of platinum, right? So it's one of those things where it's up to you. EMR, I did not. I have not yet received that. I'm going to check the mail today and see if it came in. Hopefully it comes in today, and then we'll give giveaway. If for those of you who don't know, EMR has reached out, and he sent in a bunch of W quarters to give away on the stream as we're talking about the West Point Mint. Hopefully they come in today, and if so, we're going to be doing some giveaways tomorrow. I've got a couple of things to give away, but yeah, EMR was gracious to send those. Hopefully they come in today. If not, we'll do another one, and I'll run it Monday, Tuesday, whenever they come in. I'll do a special live for those of you who came in, and we'll draw. I can pull up the participants and stuff like that. It was supposed to be at the P.O. Box Wednesday. I'll send my son to the P.O. Box again today and double check. I went on Wednesday and it wasn't there, but it was earlier in the day, so I may need to go again. So I'll double check, but hopefully we have those for tomorrow. I know you paid extra to get them there, so they should be there. But normally I get notification that I need to sign for it. So yeah, check it again. Let me know. And if it is there, then I'll send my son to the post office today and have him pick it up. But I appreciate that. It was a really great gesture, not only for the channel, but for other people who watched. So thanks so much for that, EMR. I haven't looked at the tracking. I'll be honest with you. I don't know. At this point, the post office probably give Frosty a key to the whole building. I get stuff, but it's kind of random when it comes in. I do get a lot of stuff. You guys are extremely gracious for giveaways, donating stuff on behalf of the channel to Wounded Warriors or to St. Jude, or to give away stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of great people out there. So just expect that, periodically I'll just randomly give stuff away. Cinderella, I have a very bad habit of telling my own story as a way to show I understand, as well as give examples to others. Yes, I was a teacher. Stories can be an element of intrigue. And telling my own story, this is why I created fictional stories. I'm at the beginning with fact, right? So I still got, actually, we need to do a giveaway for some more copper bars. I've given away about half of them just randomly to people who get stuff. I'll just throw a few in there. I need to send out, I got an order sitting here that I need to get out, and I haven't done that yet. But I'm good right now, Luther. I appreciate it. But storytelling, Cinderella, is one of those things that I appreciate. I appreciate knowing what happened with a coin or the explanation of how somebody found it, or you see these people that well, let's do this by a raise. Let's do number one. Okay, if you were in the Army, raise your hand. Do your hand raise? Do a number one. If you were in the Army, why does that matter? Well, today was West Point. This is where the Army College, the Army School for Officers is. This is where the academy is for the Army. When you're looking at the Navy, you're looking at DC, they're in Virginia. So we have military members have this idea of their lineage, their history. So stories allow people the opportunity to connect on a level that just talking about the coin may not do that. As a teacher, I'm sure your students probably understand something or pick something up, and maybe the student that hears things, that's the auditory learner, picks up from that, whereas the person who's the visual learner might not do that. So the combination between story and visual always is a good thing. So make sure that your stories are rooted in fact. Again, I have the stories they're fictional stories, but all my elements are based in fact. I just set an artificial tone because I want to set the scene. And so continue to tell stories. This is something that is extremely important. And a lot of people, I think, like this format because, one, it's fun to sit back, sip on a cup of coffee, your soda, have your breakfast, and listen to something cool that you may not have ever heard about before. Many of us are older. Not all of us are older, but many of us are. And when our kids are our grandkids, I don't have grandkids at this point. But when they sit down and you can tell somebody something, I mean, I've had conversations with people, Azure Blue, him and I have had conversations. Vote for Pedro and I have had conversations talking about coins and the history and what they remind us of. This is how we grow community. This is how we build community. This is how we build relationship and friendship. And so stories carry a lot of weight. Don't underestimate the power of a good story. They really do matter. Your own personal experiences are good. And again, tying to something that people know. I'm George Washington's older brother, the ugly brother. Just kidding, Pedro. I seen the one picture he took. He sent me a picture, and there's these lines, and I realized that it was the lens had cracked when they took the picture. So this is just based off of good intel. Just kidding, Pedro. Love you, brother. Check Stacker, you're great at telling stories and making coin history interesting and fun. Thanks, bud. I enjoy doing it. I enjoy the opportunity to teach. And much like Cinderella, I'm not a teacher per se, but my nickname is the professor. Why is that? Not because I'm extremely smart. It's because I like to teach. I like to share information. I like to do research, find things, build relationships, learn those stories, because that's who we are. We are a people. We are people. Our stories are us. And if we can find people's stories, there was a discussion that I had with somebody that I'm going to read you a portion of this text message that I got from a buddy of mine. And he said, one of the issues when you start talking with somebody is you find out more than just the surface. When you get deeper into the weeds, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't like what you see. And it's that insight, it's that information that allows us to look at and find out, hey, who are these people? And what are they like? And I've learned a lot about a lot of people here. I've learned a lot of interesting stories, a lot of hard lives. And I've been able to establish some really good friendships because of it. So don't underestimate the power of a story, and don't underestimate the power of knowing a coin. And again, tomorrow we'll be talking more about that shortly. That reminds me of Sam Kinison joke about Jesus's brother and his parents saying, "Why aren't you more like your brother?" Sam Kinison. I love that. It's a lot of fun. Jack Riley likes it deep in the weeds. Jack, yeah, well, both Jacks do. But again, there's a layer of information that can be had by people who do research and share a good story. Not everybody is really good at telling stories. It's just one of those things that I enjoy, and I hope you enjoy it, and I hope that you find it beneficial. I'm going to continue to do this style of weekend stream where we talk about a story, we break down the fun facts about a coin, and then we actually break down the coins themselves. Sometimes we will deviate from that. We will do something specific if there's something fun out there. But again, it's just about making sure that we connect as a people. The community is diverse. We come from all walks of life. And it's important that we understand it's okay to agree to disagree. We have to understand that it's okay to have disagreements and look at things differently. Paula Bloom and Chuck Daughtry, two amazing people, two amazing friends of mine, don't always agree on the stuff that they see. You have Jack Riley, Jack Young, they may see something. They may not agree on what it is that they're seeing. But this is how we learn. This is how we grow. And it's that feedback, that information that helps us to grow as a people. And I tell you what, I don't know if you guys have been watching the news lately. I don't know if you guys have been watching the status of our nation lately, or the status of some of our other nations that are going through some of the same issues. But we are in a serious state of growing pains. Our nation is in a rough place. So coming together and sharing a common love, a common interest, having conversations, being able to talk about things, being able to agree to disagree, we need more of this in our nation. We really do. And so I hope that you guys will engage in conversation more. I hope you will attend not just my channel, but other channels, and really engage in the conversation. Let people know what you're interested in, because it really does make a difference. Cinderella, that's what my story did. At first look, the coin was worth hundreds. Deeper search marked it was rare and were worn off. And again, there are things that you can do when looking at a specific coin to identify it. But that's where you need the experts. That's where you need those people. And, you know, Luther, yeah, we all have disagreements. We all can be butt heads. That's fact. But we also need to be able to agree to disagree. We also need to be able to understand that our opinions are just that. They're just freaking opinions, folks. Sometimes they're based in fact, but more times than not, it's just because we heard somebody say it. We're just regurgitating it. So we need to be really careful of that. All right, folks. Well, I'm going to get off of my political horse. Stop talking about the set of our nation. Today's story was about West Point. I hope you guys enjoyed the story. Hope you gals enjoyed the fireplace. I wanted to do something fun and let people just sit back and look at the fire. Matter of fact, maybe I'll just turn the fire on right now while we sit here. There we go. Isn't that much nicer? You just sit here and listen to somebody talk and you watch the fire. I actually need to turn on the little crackling sounds and maybe have some Christmas going on in the background. But whatever your fancy is, whatever you enjoy, whatever it is that you want to know more about, send me an email, comment in a video. If you like something that you see here, let's talk more about it. But it's up to you. Okay, so reach out to me, let me know. If you enjoy this and you're not a subscriber, please do so. We're trying to get to that 7,500 subscribers. We got a little ways to go, moving pretty well. But it's people like you that are going to make the difference. So please, if you're new, consider subscribing, share it out, and have a wonderful, wonderful holiday. We're going to be talking about these coins tomorrow. Please make sure you join us. Jack Young will be here. Hopefully, Eric will be back. Folks, take care of yourselves. Be well, be blessed, and remember that kindness is free. It doesn't take much. It can change the course of somebody's day more than you may realize. I love you guys. If I don't talk to you beforehand, we'll see you tomorrow.